begin by tell you a little bit about my country and within this context of architectural language. And I will go from north to south in my country, going through a series of photographs of a survey done in the 60s of 20th century by now the masters, Álvaro Siza Vieira and Fernando Tavra, his master, that during the 60s did a full survey of vernacular architecture throughout the country. And so this is in the north. And what I very much like about this vernacular architecture that my people in my country is teaching me is that it's about the flexibility of the different geographic conditions to a very wise and simple configuration of what a living realm is. So this is in the north where the granite stones take up the landscape, and then people sometimes just build a house by using a space between two rocks. This is other houses further south near the rivers, where the stones become rounded by the water, and then they just adapt it and they become part of the architectural language of the houses. Or when they are in the quarries cutting the stones from nature, that the nature becomes metamorphosized into some sort of ambiguous architectural form. So it's nature becoming architecture. This is also in the north, is a kind of a communitary gathering of small warehouses to store the corn. So it's looks like a kind of a sanctuary, but it's actually for storing cereals during the winter. And these very simple houses in stone and clay tiles that just articulate through the landscape and somehow merge into the landscape as they brought out of the land and then they just belong into the land. This is in the south, in Alentejo, this kind of continuous roofs as if they are a new kind of ground, and they just very flexible and adaptable to the size of the landscape. This is ancient windmills that nowadays we talk a lot about sustainability as if it is a new thing. Wind has been used for millenniums here by using this energy to, of course, make the bread materials and other cereals. Or they would use how to collect the water, or using the strength of the water to make the mills and to have the powder for eating goods. In the south, the houses are made out of dirt that is compressed into boxes, and so they become these kind of gigantic bricks. And normally the roofs would be built in domes in a very simple way. They would just glue them together and arch them with a kind of a really interesting knowledge about technology. Of course, very, very low technology, but nevertheless really effective, the creation of space. This is also in the south, where they use the cane for thermal insulation, this hollow space inside the canes as a kind of a device for cutting from the heat temperature. In the south is much warmer than the north. And then it was the work of the women to wash the houses with this whitewash from limestone every year to protect and to also reflect the heat from the houses, which would make these kind of environments very coherent and cohesive, and which we would find in all the villages throughout the southern part of the country. So always also because it's a rather poor country, considering the Northern European countries, Normally these finishes would be just in the face of the buildings, and then the back and then less noble aspects of the buildings would remain unfinished. And the stone becomes raw, and they melt with the stones in the ground. So there's this very strong sense of belonging and putting in presence a kind of a space for people, a nice space for people here. It's very kind of clear, this continuity between ground resources, ground, wall, and interior space. As we go further to the tip of southern tip, Algarve, the fishing industry becomes really strong, and the presence of the boats inside the villages as well. And it rains a lot less in these areas, so the flat roofs become a territory for drying fruits and drying fish to preserve in the times that there was no refrigerator. In the north, there was more preserving. They would preserve this fish with salt, but in the south, they would preserve it by drying. So this would make a very peculiar kind of architecture, which we would find nowadays much more apparently contemporary, but this is really ancient kind of typology that is just really adapted to the conditions. And of course, the roofs would be water collectors that then be stored down in some cisterns in the underground floor. In the shore areas, normally houses would be finished with these dried plants, which make this kind of very kind of comfortable volumes. But as we would go into the fishing locations, fishermen would build the boats and would build a house with the very same technology, and there would be houses that they could be moved from place to place. They could be could put a wagon in just below and then drag the house to another beach or another position in the settings. So within that presentation of this variety in our really small country, I'm going to show you 5 projects, 3 public works, and I will begin with this, an aquarium for cod, and I will show you at the end 2 very different houses. Okay, this is a little bit about where we are, Portugal. We are a very, very small country in the tip of Europe, facing the Atlantic Ocean, and connected to Spain, that will then connect to France, and etc. So we are a country that for many, many generations has faced the ocean as our neighbor and as our territory for traveling, for expanding, for getting knowledge and sharing life with others. So in this particular case, I'm going to tell you about fishing, and this is the city that has commissioned this it was a public competition for a codfish museum. I must say that cod is our national dish, but cod is not native Portuguese. It's actually from the northern seas, northern European Groenland seas. So people would travel for miles and miles to get this fish, and they would store it with salt. And so salt fish became salt codfish became our national dish. So this is the museum. It's an area in the center of the country that water is really important. So they had a very important navy throughout the 18th, 18th centuries. And in the early 20th century that this photo is showing, they would travel to the very far north of the planet to fish this marvelous codfish. So it was a very harsh enterprise to go with these boats to these frozen environments and unknown environments. And the boats would be really powerful 4-mast boats, sailboats, and then men. This was a full crew of men. This is a crew of the 30s of 20th century, very specialized. The project I'm going to show you here is that is this cod fishing industry museum, where all the records for all the fishing boats were stored in this museum. We first did the first part of the museum, and 10 years later they asked us to do an extension that I will show you briefly, with an aquarium where cod could finally come to Portugal and people could see cod in real life. This is how the museum was when the competition was launched. This was a building done in the 70s, a small building, and this was our model for the competition. The competition called for the renovation of the existing building, which is somewhat here inside, and then here is the extensions and the refurbishment of all the technological apparatus that the museum requires. So here you see that the old building, existing building, is being wrapped up with bricks, and the newer volumes are already being built further in the back. And this is the outcome of this building. It was done in the late 90s. Actually, we started in 97 and we ended it in the year about 2000. Okay, so this is also the extension and the entrance to the rooms, and the temporary exhibition room where the building sits on top of the water. That is, in fact, this water is a firefighting device that we need to have a big reservoir, so we use the open air reservoir as a kind of a context for building, for the thematics of the building itself. So this was the first aspect, and now I want to talk to you a little bit about cod fish, and this is what for Portuguese people codfish looks like. Is a triangular fish, flat without head, but in fact it's not like that. It's a fat, large fish, because this is how the fishermen would fish it, really far away from the country. So in fact, this is what Portuguese people think cod looks like. And the mayor wanted to bring cod inside the country for people to see what it looks like. And the whole area around this city had a lot of families that were brought up by old fishermen and captains of this enterprise of cod. So here we had the existing museum, the one I just showed you before, built in the late 90s. And this was the site for the new museum, the new aquarium extension. And this was a former school that had been rearranged to be an incubator for companies in the industry of fishing, research for fishing, for construction, for boats, etc. So somewhat related to what was going on in the museum. And they wanted a piece, a building that would be a kind of a biological center for understanding, studying cod and the related industries around the cod fishing. So we were supposed to use this site. This site would be the center of the development of a new development, large urban development of the city. So it would be the symbolic building, and would connect the school, now the incubator for the companies, and the existing, already existing museum that we had done 10 years later. So very rough cardboard model that we use a lot while we work. The existing museum, the school, and a connection with the new building. This had a particularity. The context one was that I already mentioned, that would be the beginning of a new urban development. So we were studying this as the square for the codfish and how important this was in the overall neighborhood. But also there was a street, a walking street that would have to remain. So we would have to bridge over that street and locate the building, and so somewhat connect the buildings with bridges. And we didn't really want a building that would have an architecture on its own and then had to connect it in bridges. We wanted the bridge and the sequence to be absolutely integrant part of the building. So another rearrangement of the square, of the arrival of the axial place to enter the aquarium from here. Also, we had the building before, as you have seen before in the photos, with black slate stone on the ground and white wash stucco on the upper volume. And here in the extension, we reversed that. We had a black metallic building in the back, in the top, and a white painted concrete on the bottom. So somehow emulating the same color scheme with different materials on a reverse position. First aspect, of course, well, we had never done an aquarium, and in fact, we like very much to switch programs. It was to study the house of the water, the aquarium. The aquarium, in fact, is a very small portion of the overall building because it has a lot of infrastructures behind. And there was also the idea that the expansion of the storage space for the existing museum would move into this building below ground. So first of all, we did the cod fish and the tank, and we prepared everything, and then we flew to Norway to our consultants, biology consultants that are worldwide experts on codfish. And they told us that the building was very beautiful, but the cod didn't understand anything about architecture. We had strange corners in the building, and the codfish cannot swim into the corners because then you will never know how to get out of there. So we had to think as if we were cods ourselves. So we were kind of embarrassed. We came home and we looked back at the cod, tried to think as if we were cod. So what is the cod like? In fact, it's a fish that only swims forward and swims around. So we start developing this idea of swimming around the tank, a tank that could be swam around and that we could walk around. So somehow all these models from the interior in very schematic terms to more developed terms and into the building, and also from the technical apparatus down below start becoming developed after this meeting. This is the upper part, the connection to the museum that would have to bridge 40 meters above the existing road. It's in fact a steel massive truss that bends in the middle and has a window that we can look back at the museum, and then we enter the building from the upper part. And then we come down, we look down into the tank. The tank is here down below, and we arrive on the upper part, and then we start spiraling down and seeing the aquarium and the fish in many different at many different heights. So the walls around are in fact chimneys, because to trade air with all the equipment that we have below, we had to control the air for the museum that is at 22 degrees, but also to produce very cold water at 12 degrees, which is the temperature that the cod needs to live. So just going through some plans, this is the cod fish aquarium down below with the rocks inside, and this is the extension of some sort of levels where we can seat 50 people, exactly what fits one bus of tourists that visit very often the museum. We will enter here when the development is finished inside the reception, or we can enter directly from the street here, or we can enter from the museum above. So this is the entrance from the museum above. if we have seen the earlier museum, and then we walk above the street, we can look out to the back and look down into the aquarium and then go down. This is a window where we can look down below our feet and then slide down below. So this is an elevation from the future development. We have the white painted concrete, and then we have the black zinc upper part. So here we see connection to the museum, balcony to the aquarium itself. Here is the biological center, the quarantine center for the cod. This is where all the machines are. It's further down below, so that if the aquarium breaks, the water sits here, and this is the collection for the museum. And so this is the depth, extra depth is to protect the collection of the museum for a possible flood. This is another elevation with the bridge that connects to the school. The school that is now the incubator center, and the connection to the museum. And here is the bridge connecting to the museum. Okay, so this is another model, 1:100 scale, coming from the museum. And the skin, we wanted the skin of the museum to be in zinc, so it's a flat material that we wrap around the building. We didn't want the joints to be exactly in the edges of our architecture. We wanted to build the fabric first and then wrap it around the building. So every now and then the joints slip out as the shape goes down. So this is a procedure of trial test. We use these small models to discuss among us, to discuss with engineers, and we move up to scale. And so it's a real continuous process of building and rebuilding and changing scale. So show you some photos. This is the tail of the bridge that we are inside the courtyard of the old museum, and we're going to bridge into the new museum, but at some point we can come here and pick out. Here we are below the bridge in the window that we can look back at the museum, and this roof, this square is in fact the roof for the storage room for the collection of the museum down below, and the bridge to the incubator school. This is going to be the entrance from the north. Here we built in concrete with wood boards, but the concrete was painted with white. It's of course much cheaper than building it with white concrete. The arrival to the top view over the fish, the winding ramp as we go down, and this is the upper view from the aquarium. The rocks are made in fact of glass fiber, and here there is a gap to clean the water, to drain the water and clean it down below. So here the aquarium that has come from Norway, they were still rather small. Now they have grown a lot, and they are quite big. So here the building, we were building inside the urban context of small villas. So we didn't want the building to look massive. So this break into two different volumes of one floor was for us the strategy to somehow break down the scale and be more compatible with the context around. So we have the black zinc cladding on top and the white concrete on the bottom. This is the entrance. On top, this is a cantilever piece that when the sun shines, writes aquarium in the walls. The passage over the walking street and the incubator, the old school refurbished. The window looking back, and the aquarium down as it was finalized. So here we see the connection, the further development, the next development is going to come up here. Second project I'm going to show you is a city market. They had just recently closed down the market for sanitary conditions, and they gave us a very strange plot This is a very old city, a branch with a Gothic core, very articulated, and we were on a location that articulated the court, city court, house, and a flatter area with the old historic center. So, and also we had proposed that this square is full of cars, that we could build a parking below ground and then use the building not just for a market, but also for a public stair to access the city center directly. The city hall is right there. And so we are somehow here outside the city, and we wanted to use the market as a kind of a street, public street device. So the studies here is the upper street where the buildings are very small, and so we wanted our building to somehow engage the scale of this street. But on the other hand, we wanted the building on the other side that would become the entrance to the city, and it was since it was a public market. So we were studying how to enter this. At some point of the program, they wanted a tourist welcome center as well. So we tried to articulate these parts of the program. So we decided that the building was going to be a sequence of piled up smaller volumes that somehow could articulate the scale, the different scales that we had on both sides. So this is a kind of a schematic model. At some point we would enter here, we would have the welcome center, and then the stairs going up and the different spaces of the market, and these volumes are basically skylights. So photo from the upper part, here people can walk straight down to the market, and these are other floors of the market. And of course we needed another security stair besides the stair that would go around the market and would connect the different plaza on top, and the upper street and the lower plaza, the court plaza. And then we use the internal stair as a kind of a space protagonist that somehow would erode the interior slabs and create a kind of a sense of common space in the market. This project was done also in concrete, and painted white. So these are small models to study how we would articulate the boards, the wood boards, the molding boards. So a plan with the lower aspect from here would enter the materials, the goods, with the elevators, dedicated elevators just for meat, fish, flowers, etc., fruits going up. And here the tourists come in and had a welcome center, and then here they can go up, or people that want to go up to the upper street would take up the elevator directly. So here the stair going up, and along the stair you can see the different floors of the market, the fish, the flowers, the fruits, and then finally the meat on the upper floor. So different floors. Here you can, you're already very high up. There is a balcony down below to look down at the street. Here we are connecting to the street, the entrance directly from the upper street, and you can see below and up onto the different spaces. Okay, and the upper part is also in black concrete, the roofs, black concrete slabs. So the study model, sectional model, the entrance from below, elevation from the north, from the street, section through the stair that it's now a public stair that closes just during the night. And both of the stairs, the public stair and the internal stair of the market, and the volume seen from below. So here we have the courthouse and the cars. The parking below has not been yet developed. The entrance to the welcome center, stair, public stair, and the different layers of the market. So it's a very raw building. it's an outside space. It does not have, it's not water airtight, so it works. It's a fully ventilated, open to the outside. It's not insulated for a thermal temperature. It just has natural convection and is actually quite fresh. So the street above, we wanted to break down the scales with the different volumes, and at night the market closes actually after lunch, and then only the street is open, and then it closes at a certain point during the night. Third building is a health and cultural center for fishermen location near Aveiro. We had done the museum previously here, and now this building is in this area in Costa Nova. Costa Nova in Aveiro was a very poor location that were only fishermen lived there, and so this was the kind of aspect that it looked like in very early 20th century or in 19th century. The houses were painted in tar. It's an insulative material that fishermen use for insulating the boats. And it had this kind of aspect. But after the early 20th century, when the fashion to go to the beach for health reasons and for leisure developed in France, this striped aspect of architecture, very much influenced by French style, came down to the fishermen villages, and the bourgeoisie started buying the houses of fishermen and painting them with these bright colors that now we still also have in the barracks that we can rent for summer in the beach. So that created this kind of a leisure beach kind of architecture. So this is now very much the postcard of the area of Barra, Costa Nova, but it has been very, very different. So another aspect that is very interesting is the land property is really cut up very narrow and long. So when we're flying above this area, we see how narrow and long we can find plots that are 3 meters wide by 3 kilometers long, because people would just split the land in portions. If they had 3 sons and they had 3 meters, they split it into 3 layers of 1 meter. So it's really a land situation that has informed a lot architecture typology. And so they wanted to build in this area a medical and cultural center. Costa Nova, more or less in this line, is divided. On the north is the rich area, and on the south is the poor area where the fishermen moved on to when the bourgeoisie in the beginning of the century started coming on the upper part. So here we see the building that was still under construction. The peculiarity here is that here we are facing the ocean, but the whole city has been turned to the inland and the water delta that develops on the interior part. So because of course the wind always comes from the ocean, so when you are here, you cannot really face the ocean. We had a very old church from the 16th century, a new church done in the 80s, and now they wanted this building to be the health center for the fisherman community and the cultural center that would then also have cinema and shows and exhibitions during the summer, and entertain this leisure part in the summer, that this area becomes very, very popular. Another thing really important is the context, natural context. we are on a primary dune, so the construction in these dunes is has always been and is now requested to be always very delicate in wood and be a reverse process. So right away we told the mayor we want to build this building fully in wood, as fishermen always did it here, how local technology was being used. And we were studying these land plots and how architecture was divided to bring it in this kind of scale and morphology into the volumes of this massive program that we had to develop. So these are early models, these models that we engage on the larger model, site model. We start writing the parts of the program and starting to split them like the land is split, and somehow to start organizing a volume. And of course, changing scale and evolving the model. We wanted the building that would be something that we could walk up to and go on the upper part and finally see the ocean on the upper part. So here is we would connect this building with the wood connections of the system. So here also we decided that the roof was going to be in sand because we were in the primary dune. So we covered the whole roof, the parts that are not walkable, and the parts that are walkable are in fact wood, and the other parts are in sand. Early models of building in wood, we had never done a wood building, fully wood building, and in Portugal it was a technology that was not being used anymore. So it was really interesting to learn again from these older buildings how it was being done. And of course, most of the wood that we have to use now, it has to be homogenized, so it's imported from France, because in Portugal the technology has not been developed, but this has been pushing a lot the development of wood construction around Portugal. And in fact, we have a lot of forests, but in the industry now, with the issues of sustainability, is pushing a new interest in wood construction. But this was one of the earliest buildings, or certainly one of the most significant earlier buildings. The problem of how to build it with wood and build structures that are earthquake proof, and in fact this is health buildings, these buildings that after every building falls down on a catastrophe are the buildings that have to be there standing to help people on a critical condition. So we had to work thoroughly with the engineers to understand wood construction, and until finally we filtered the language for the torques, horizontal and vertical, and supports, the minimum and necessary supports to sort of organize it into what we called, and is the thematics of our talk today, the language. It's about what is necessary. So here is the entrance to the main room, performance room, cultural center, meeting rooms, public bathrooms, and here is the health center with the doctors' rooms and so forth, nurses' waiting room, and people enter from another part. So in fact, it's 3 different buildings put together and articulated together. So here is the walk to the upper part, the restaurants and the tables area, walking area, and the sand roofs. The building is dyed in white on the inside, and on the outside, the fishermen painted the buildings in tar, and tar was dissolved in oil fish. And I wanted to look for this kind of feeling of this color that now has been masked by this French fashion of the early 20th century with the striped architecture. We call it the pyjama architecture. So we wanted to search for this color, original color, but we could not use tar because we are on a primary dune. So these are not anymore materials that one can use. So we use 2 different oils, vegetable oils, red first for the oil fish and black for the tar. And we painted with both colors. So the building has a kind of a warm black, as you will see. So then the edges are in curtain steel that then rests the surface. So it's kind of a tough building with sand on the top, painted with these two different oils. Is something between a whale and a boat and a building that sits on a dune. And you go inside. This is, of course, in the roof. Here we go inside. This is glulam beams, rather big spans, reception area, and the performance room where you see, of course, the primary dune and looking into the ocean. It's acoustically prepared for these performances, but you see how this is actually a stair that was built through model and then put together like a model bit by bit. And the upper part facing the ocean. These are fire exits in curtain steel. Access to the roof, we had to put this because the kids would go up there with the motorcycles and so forth. So we had to preserve this. There's the light is a kind of a stars on the ground. And finally here we can see the ocean below past the dune. So now I'm going to show you two houses, one in the south, and then I will finish in Lisbon. Pusanco, Lisbon is in this area here. Here we are in the south of Portugal, but also on near a river area. This is the shore. This is Sines. This is Cape Spichel, and this is the house. Was at the end of a protected green area that would stop here. Actually goes around here, and was a development for. Many years, this triangular plot was not sold because they could not know how to put a triangular house on a triangular plot somehow, but it was the limit of the protected area. So we were faced with this fact that we had a house facing south. This is, I must say, is a summer house. So it's a seasonal house. This is about 300 kilometers from Lisbon. People come here for the full months of August normally, and every now and then in the spring, but occasionally on weekends. So it's a house that is normally closed. And when you come on summer, it's really hot here. Sun is powerful, and you go to the beach, which is about 1 kilometer near. So it's a totally different environment. And we are facing north. North, we have the natural reserve. So we had these opposite conditions of having the house facing south, and south in the summer being a very harsh light and heat, and having a beautiful landscape in the north, where normally we don't want to face our houses. And we had this very strange condition that we had a regulation for the plot that says that the house has to have a 2-pitch roof and has to be fully white. It says that. Then it said that the roof, we could preferably use tile. So we were very intrigued with how to put a 2-pitch roof on a triangular house. And then finally this mystery was solved when we said to ourselves, maybe the house prior to be triangular was a rectangular house, and then it was cut with a plot. So it was a rectangular house with 2-pitch roof, and then it was cut. And so finally we realized how to put a 2-pitch roof on the house. So in fact, this story that took us a little bit of time to understand was the beginning of the idea of the project. And also we were very intrigued in this word on the regulation that we could preferably use tile, as if they were suggesting that we would not use tile. So we decided not to make the house of tile, but to make it fully white as the regulation was saying. And in fact, the regulations, typical houses in Alentejo, this province of the country, are normally fully in white. In fact, I showed you earlier on a woman painting with this white lime wash the houses. The houses are like this. They are very massive, very little perforations because of not just technology, but also because of the intensity of light and heat. So this is our house with a courtyard. That is our Arabic influences, the importance of the courtyard in the center of the house that has been chopped by this plotment strange operation that created this triangular plot. So as it is a seasonal house, and normally people come here for holidays, this is the entrance. It's a very low maintenance house with very little details. Here is the bedrooms for the kids. Basically, kids go out at night all the time in the summer. And this is a communitary living room, kitchen in the center of the house. And this is just a courtyard. And here is the walk to the parents' bedrooms and guests' bedrooms. And so kids and parents are in two opposite sides of the house, so that the noise of the kids and the freedom of the kids to go out at night and have fun is in harmony with the rest and quiet of the parents. So the house with the two-pitch roof and the house facing south, that in many aspects, it looks like the paradigm of vernacular Alentejo house. And this is just the section of the house. When we cut the house with the plotment, then we just put the minimum windows that are necessary to put light and to ventilate the rooms below. So another section, and this is already the photo of the house. The blue is a typical situation that they paint around the windows. They say to protect from the spirits, and we dissolve the blue in all the holes we open in the house, so that also the light, when it comes inside, is a little bit less, is a little bit more filtered, is a little bit less intense. So this light blue sort of filters from the sky into the heart of the space inside. So it's not so obvious when you are near it. It looks, you doubt that if it's white or if it's blue, because the sky is blue and we have these very beautiful clean skies in this area. But the house is a very straightforward volume, almost, with no details, like vernacular houses don't have details. And even the landscape is stones and sand. So it's no maintenance garden. It's just a totally flush, fully white as in the regulations. And this is the cut up courtyard that connects to the living room. So here we are sitting in a courtyard, and the courtyard is a very well-defined space as it goes, as we are above. And as we are below, it opens to this natural reserve area facing north. So this is the house from the sliced angle, and the house from the north, where these windows are just placed in a situation that it's most favorable to the inside, and using as little windows as possible, because the cost of the house had to be really low. The view of the balcony of the master bedroom, even the lights are small bulbs hidden, and it's just a hole inside the house. Okay, I'm going to show you the last project. Is a house in Lisbon. I think I'm still okay in time, and I will finish with this house. It's an urban house. This is center of the city. This is the National Parliament. It's fairly close to my office, where I am right now. And it's a very small plot of the 16th century of the fabric of the city. So it's a 7-meter wide block. Just want to tell you a little bit about the city of Lisbon. This is a engraving of the 18th century. City had a cataclysm, a massive earthquake followed by tsunami. The whole city burned down. First had an earthquake, and after for 1 week was burning. So this became very present and is still very present. And after that, we had a project done by a military engineer, architect, Eugênio dos Santos, that did this new development that was the first big neo-rationalist development done in urbanism in Europe. That was because of this cataclysm. So we had in pink the old fabric of the city, and in yellow the new plan. And this plan also initiated a kind of a mass fabrication of the city and planning of the architecture of the city. So they designed the blocks and the architecture, and a whole system of prefabrication was developed out of this necessity to rebuild. So this is just a recent photo, a 3D view, Google 3D view of the city. So we are talking about the heart of the city right here, after the reconstruction. And here we see how the old fabric was pretty organic and Arabic influence. So this was a very important factor that had a very strong impact in architecture of the whole city. So these are some early sketches of the house. This is a private house in 5 floors, but this idea of opacity and openings and the articulation between open and void, the solid void, it became a kind of a language itself with variations. We are no longer in such homogeneous context as in this massive reconstruction, but we have to the left and to the right different buildings that we want to articulate the system of openings and voids through the skin of our building. So this is one of the study models of it. We wanted the building to be fully in stone. This is a peculiar stone we call liorge. It's a calcareum sedimentary stone that builds all the monuments and also parts of the house in the city. So the house to be a stone, a Lisbon stone house. And then on the interior courtyard, the house would be in glass. As in the 19th century, a lot of glass architecture appeared in the interior of the courtyards. This is the roof is flat, is in fact tile that has been broken up in grains, and then so it's gravel, clay gravel on top, and interior of the courtyard is a very straightforward, transparent glass volume, pretty pragmatic, but the courtyards are really beautiful because they have different private gardens, so you want to really be in contact with this interior. But since the city here has a tremendous topography, the upper floors have immense, beautiful views over the hills of the city. So here is the entrance. We put a car inside. Even the entrance gate of the cars is also in stone on the outside. And here people enter. And then it's always a stair, a cross stair that articulates different volumes. So this is the basement where we have kitchen and dining area facing the courtyard that pretty much used up just the stones of the existing house that was demolished, that was in ruin. We kept all the stones in the courtyard for the floor to bring a table on the outside to the garden. But basically here is a kitchen and laundry area and storage area with the bathroom. And here we go up to the upper part. This is a typical room. We can slide the doors, swing the doors, and we can go around all the rooms. This was at certain point divided to have 2 kids, or in the beginning they were not divided. They were sharing a room. When they became adolescent, they divided the room, and then later on when they go out of the house, the room is again open. So they all share this bathroom, and this was the same in every room. Whereas the facade to the street, the stone facade, has this system of solid voids, as we saw here, to the interior of the courtyard. And to embrace the courtyard and to bring the courtyard in, we have this glass house. In the last floor, we have a library here with this really beautiful view of the city, and a courtyard with a lemon tree on the courtyard. Lemon is a very appreciated fruit for the kitchen. So here we see how this is the archetype of the street. And here is void is the courtyard. We have the tree on the back, and here is the archetype of the gardens, where we find a lot more glass normally on the courtyards. The house is fully built in exposed concrete. It's a technology that is very common in Portugal. And all the stairs are in the same place, so it's like a small living machine. So here we have the house. You can just go past the street and you don't really notice the house. You can easily miss it. It just engages this rhythm of the stones on the windows. It's how the city is built. And here we are facing straight to it, to this stone. Even the mullions of the streets, we wanted just to have holes and stone and holes. So we hide the mullions of the windows behind the stone. So the frames are hidden. Okay, inside you have a full concrete room, ceiling, walls, and also on the floor. Here the courtyard that we basically just stabilized all the walls that were in place. We didn't demolish anything. And here we have the stones of the previously existing wall. And here, this is for drying the clothes behind, and have also garbage at the end of the courtyard. And here is the house facing south. Of course, from the upper parts, we have very, very beautiful views. So here we are on the living room area. This is the garage entrance door. So we combine these ash wood doors that is warmer with this cooler concrete environment. Even the cabinets are all in ash wood that separates different rooms that can, of course, be taken apart. And this is the room that the kids later on built a partition. And below there are cabinets facing the corridor. And when we close the doors, this is just a flush wood door. And this is from the upper rooms, we start seeing the river and the other hills of the city. So it's very interesting location. So here we have the bathroom. The bathroom is also in the same carved wood, stone. The sink is a full block carved, and here is the bedrooms facing the street, where we have the windows that we have hidden the mullions, and we can shut down completely and have a fully blackout. The same situation where the doors go from floor to the ceiling. And here is the courtyard with lemon tree, and above this platform we have the solar panels to heat up the water for the house. So this is it.